Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Source Comic Boom collaboration. Finally, we're getting to We Have Demons number 3. Apologize, I know it's late. Uh, we have been planning to do it for a while, but life happens, so we're here today to talk about it. Pretty solid ending to the first arc. I really enjoyed it. I think this is one of those books that maybe flew under the radar a little bit because it was released digitally first on Comixology, but I did see Scott Snyder said on Twitter just the other day that the final order cutoff for the print edition of issue number 1 is only a month away. So that means the book's going to be out in about 2 months. So or probably closer to 6 weeks actually. Final order cutoff's usually only a couple of weeks before the book hits comic shops. So yeah, we'll see. I think a lot of people are going to be talking about it and be like, where was this book? What's going to be interesting to see is if once the first issue comes out, and we won't know, but if when the first issue comes out, will people be like, wait, I can go read issue 2 and 3 right now online?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
but
that's exactly right.
yeah, yeah.
But
I thought it was a satisfying conclusion. I definitely want more. What did you think, Rocky?
I thought it was too. It was really good. Two things impressed me about it. Number one is that it's a complete story in only 3 issues. I actually find that refreshing because we're so used to like 6 issues, and uh, Snyder does a really good job here with Capullo and the rest of the creative team of telling a really good, concise story that establishes a new mythology, a new world, a new universe of Halo and Horn, and it's 3 issues. It's a done in one story, and it's just really good. So I like the fact that it's 3 issues, and I like the fact that it's a done in one story, and it establishes a new world that we can explore with undoubtedly future stories that will come. Obviously, probably depending on how well it's received, both in the print and continue to sell well on digital.
Yeah, and the other part of it is, even though this is a complete story in 3 issues, um, I do find that interesting that they only did 3, which I agree with you. It's refreshing to have a 3 issue arc because it does feel complete. And I wonder, did they not have any idea how this was going to be received, Capullo and Snyder, and so that's why they chose to do it? Is it because uh, Capullo has other things that he wants to do, Creech and whatnot. Scott's busy with his other Comixology originals. I just thought it was interesting because I'm ready for this to be a monthly, and I hope it's not too long. But again, I know that Greg's going to be doing some other projects. Obviously, Scott has this other Best Jacket Press stuff, but they didn't shy away from giving us events that happen in this book that are yet to be explored, and they got the Halo they wanted, so it has opened up that avenue to tell more stories as well. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Now the cliffhanger last time that we talked about this feels like forever since we talked about issue 2. Um, the body that they were carrying on the plane of Lamb's father turns out to have been infected with a demon, and they get to take him on in the cabin, and they ultimately defeat him. It's not quite as easy as you might think. Lamb still has trouble getting her sword to glow that's made with the halo. Still having a little bit of trouble with her faith, but she doesn't believe that she's having trouble with her faith. There are things that she does believe in, and so the group of swords that are left, used to be 1,000, now down to just a handful. They decide they can't wait for the halo that's supposed to arrive. That they were told by Lamb's father, Cash, that was going to be there because he was infected with a demon at the time. It's unlikely he was telling the truth. It's probably a trap. It's probably an ambush. Again, Lamb showing she has faith by saying, no, I'm going to stay. And she has an interesting theory. She's like, every other time you guys were looking for Halo and thought Halo was going to come to Earth, you got there after the appointed time. So I thought she was going to say that somebody else got to it first. But I guess then you'd still sense that there was Halo hidden away on Earth. But what she actually says is, it's possible that this Halo is flying close enough to Earth. There's no one there at the appointed time and place when it passes to sort of call it down. Like attracts like. So if they're there at the appointed time at the appropriate place and they have faith, maybe the Halo will be
Yeah.
attracted to that
Yeah.
faith.
I thought
So
that was quite brilliant. That was a brilliant part of the plot, and it made a lot of sense. Uh,
yeah, and what's interesting about that is it's leaning into this idea that yes, the story's science based, and we really dove into this in the first issue. Yes, the story is science based, but there's a supernatural or a spiritual element to the story, and that really brought it home because even though it was we talked about it a lot in the first issue, and it was still there in the second issue, but it was a little more in the background. Now Snyder's kind of putting that forward again in the last issue or the final part of the story here, the first arc. So basically, what happens is most of the swords decide they don't want to take the risk, so it ends up being just Lamb and Hell that go over there, um, and we actually find out that Lamb's able to make her sword glow uh, if she takes the halo. She just needs a little more halo. She takes the halo that Hell has, and now he's worried, right? We saw when his bit of halo was removed on the plane, he kind of wigged out, went all evil. But again, Lamb is showing faith. She has faith in him, and they do spot some demons down, so they do realize, hey, yeah, this probably was an ambush. And then we find out that her father was actually betrayed by June. June is actually the one who's been this very ancient demon, one of the oldest demons for a long time. And again, a brilliant idea from Snyder and Capullo. The reason June, as a demon, is able to wield Halo is because she actually has some Halo in her because she's the oldest demon and she has been attacked by swords so many times. She actually has some Halo in her. She has enough Halo in her that she can make Halo work, and she has enough Halo in her that when they use the demon blood, demon blood will react to demon blood. Again, in this world, like attracts
yeah.
like. She doesn't set off the demon blood as a warning because she has so much of it in her.
Yeah.
So it was actually June, not Cash Cullen, not Lamb's father, that was the one who betrayed them, who had the plane attacked on the way there, has all these demons
Yeah.
set up here at the site where the Halo is supposed to land. And the other thing we find out is that that June infected the sword that Lamb's mother used, and the one that Lamb now uses, and that's the reason why it's not glowing. It's not actually Lamb's faith, which I thought was interesting as well. So in a show of faith, the other swords do show up. They decide that they're going to show up because June had set it up. They were all going to leave with their escape plan, their exit route, and June had set it up that the boat that they were all going to be on was going to explode. Luckily, they never got on that boat. They all show up. It's a great battle between the demons that are left and the swords that are left, or I should say, the demons that are here and the swords that are left. And it does work in terms of the Halo showing up, which is fantastic and does lead to what I was saying about a little bit of an open ending because now they have enough Halo to make even more. Like previously, again, Halo very rare. Previously, they had enough Halo to make 1,000 swords. Some have been lost over time. The amount that lands here, they say, oh my God, it's enough to make another 1,000 blades, maybe even more. And so it sort of ends with them giving evil the finger, so to speak, and they have some swords there. They're going to start recruiting and rebuild the 1,000 blades. So, um, and the final kind of moral of the story, I guess, from the Snyder Capullo side, is that we all have Halo and Horn in us. We all have the capacity for good and bad. And they do talk about the fact that at the beginning of the story, they said, hey, this is going to be a story about the fall of mankind. But the great thing about and it is to some extent, but the great thing about mankind is even if you fall, you can get back up. So uh, I guess quoting a little bit of who is it, Michael Caine in Batman Begins, why do we fall? So
Yeah.
we can get back up. Very appropriate for Snyder and Capullo. So yeah, I thought that was brilliant, and again, it opens up so many story possibilities because you can bring in like, oh, what kind of story do you want to tell in the next arc? Well, what kind of swords do you want to bring in? You know, you can bring in people from all walks of life. You know, we've seen the diversity already amongst the swords that are left in terms of where they're from and their ethnic backgrounds and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, this is just brilliant, and like I said, I hope it's not too long before we get a return of this. So I guess maybe they'll wait and see how it sells in print from Dark Horse. But I'm definitely picking up the hard copies. So more thoughts, Rocky?
Yeah, I like the way I like the smaller moments in this third issue. I like at the beginning where Cash, who her father, who's now basically become a demon, is really trying to psychologically get the better of his daughter Lamb by saying, remember Lamb, you told me that we all have demons in us. Like at one point in the previous issues, Lamb did sort of lack some faith, and she was always of the view that we are more Horn than Halo, and she even confirms that in this issue. But she's able to resist the temptation. This is the devil talking to her, basically trying to talk her into giving up being good, saying, look, you're right that we are more Horn than Halo. You even said to me, and Lamb did say to her father early on, that we all have demons in us. We all have our demons, and we do. And of course, the demon's trying to tell Lamb that, see, I gave in because of you. It was you convinced me to embrace the demon instead of the horn, instead of the halo, and just trying to play on her guilt. And it's her ability to overcome her guilt and to embrace the fact that Lamb understands that and believes that we are more horn than halo. She admits that, but she embraces the idea that we always fight to be better than we used to be. To use my own analogy, I love that wonderful quote about what's nobility. Nobility is about being better today than we were yesterday. And so, and even how that ties in with how they ended up finding the halo, as you said, the idea that like attracts like. That is it any wonder that because humanity is more horn than halo, no wonder horn is always fragments of horn are always hitting the earth, because most of us have a darker side, and we tend to embrace that. And so it kind of makes sense that we're going to get more horn. But Halo is more powerful, but it's also more rare because the reality is that you know maybe we're all sinners. Maybe we embrace our darkness a little bit too much. But as we strive to get better than we used to be, we will attract the Halo. But we got to work together. It's that idea of I can't, but we can, and how the glories came together at the end, because if it was just Lamb and Gus fighting the enemy, they would have failed, but the glories showed up, and because and it so it was this was a team effort. This isn't the story of one hero. This is the story of many, of people putting aside and fighting against their darkness to embrace and not only win the day, but attract other like attracts like. And it's like, not to get all mushy gushy and metaphorical, but there's a lot of metaphor in this story. Love conquers all, right? But you got to come together, and love is action, and that's really, it's the team effort here, and that's what's so uplifting about this and powerful about this. And just one quick comment too, that I was not expecting a happy ending by Snyder, and I'm glad he kind of gave one here. I mean, I know I'm a little bit cynical, and I apologize to Scott Snyder openly here, because I even thought some of his work at DC, and I don't want to labor on that point. I thought it was a little bit too dark for the DC universe, but this was actually a story that ends on a high note, and I like it. The good guys won here, as it should be, and I quite enjoyed this, and I'm looking forward to this moving as this mythology that has been created here by Snyder and Capullo as this moves forward.
Yeah, it's a great point. Because I thought the same thing, especially when you right from the beginning when you're reading it, and it right at the start it says this is a story about the fall of man. You do think, hey, it's going to be this is going to be a dark tale. This is going to not end on a hopeful a hopeful note, but it does. And yeah, then going back to the idea of us all having horn and halo in us all having good and bad. Yeah, it certainly is in an interesting way to look at it, and it's hard to argue that we don't have more horn than Halo in us, or at least overall in the world. Like, why is it easier to be bad? Why is it easier to be selfish? Why is it easier? Because I don't know that we always as a species felt that way, but it's certainly, you know, the times we're in now certainly sort of support that theory that it's easier to be, um, to give in to our demon side than our angel side. Because yeah, like Lamb said, we certainly all have our demons. We've all been through our stuff. We all, are tempted to be bad and make wrong decisions sometimes. So yeah, I'm very curious, like I said, to see them rebuild the swords, rebuild the glories. So yeah, we'll see. Hope it's not too long before we get more. As far as the art goes from Capullo, he's at the top of his game, especially in that battle. We get a couple of big action scenes in the book when the glories that are left take out her father, Cash Cullen, which is very much bittersweet, and then obviously the big battle at the site of the Halo landing is also done really really well. But the art never takes over to the point where you lose sight of the emotion of the story, because in a lot of ways this is a very emotional story. Lamb is operating all on emotion. I get that she's logically reasoning it out, but I don't know. For me, the choices she's making are more based on that faith that we talked about, and the fact that she does have this faith. She definitely goes on a journey throughout throughout this 3-issue arc, which again, like Rocky was saying, great that it can be done in 3 issues. Like this proves that you can tell a good story in 3 issues. It doesn't have to be 6. You don't have to be writing for the trade. Um, you can do it in 3. You can tell a good story in 1 issue. It is doable. There are such things as one and dones. So yeah, I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
We have demons. Definitely recommend it. I'll certainly we will certainly mention when Final Order Cutoff comes for the print. If you just aren't a digital reader and you want to check it out, I am curious, like I said, how many people will read the first issue in print and then go, okay, well, I can't wait. I can go wait. I can go and get a subscription to Comixology and read it right now, or I have Amazon Prime. I can go read it for free on Amazon. Yeah, we'll see how that all plays out.
Yeah.
All right. Any last thoughts there, Rocky?
Just the fact that I just love the message here that even with I mean we all have our dark side and our light side, and it all comes down to a choice, because even the at the end here where June, the one character, is revealed to be the traitor. The reality is that she was able to overcome Halo, just like Gus, who was a demon, was able to overcome Horn. So you can so it just goes to show you can choose to be evil and you can choose to be good, and you can overcome Halo, and you can also overcome Horn depending on what your choices are. So this story doesn't rob any character, or it doesn't rob humanity of our agency to choose to be good or bad. But but there is that Halo and Horn. There's always that influence. But again, we still have free will to make choices, just like June did on the side of darkness, and Gus did on the side of, I guess, Halo and the Angels. So again, I really love the metaphor here. I'm a sucker for metaphor. I've said this so often, and when it's done right, and that's what makes me remember a story. Or those is the metaphor. That's what stands out in a story after many years. That's what I remember. I remember the feelings and the message of the story, even if I don't always remember the plot points. And that's what's going to be memorable and is memorable about we have demons.
Yeah, it's a good point. Nobody is 100% evil and nobody is 100% good. We
Yeah.
all have that capacity for both within us. So, all right, everybody, that's going to do it for this episode. Don't forget, if you're checking us out on the audio only side of things, be sure you head over to YouTube. You can see the art when Rocky and I get together and talk about these things. His channel is called Comic Boom, Comic Space Boom exclamation point. So be sure you subscribe and ring the notification bell so you know when new content comes out. Also, go ahead and like this video. Conversely, if you are checking us out on YouTube and you haven't subscribed to the Comic Source, be sure you do so you don't miss out on any of the audio content that we put out. Just go to your favorite podcasting app or podcasting platform on your smart device, Google, Stitcher, iTunes, whatever it is, and subscribe to the Comic Source so you don't miss any content. So that's going to do it. We appreciate you guys joining us as always, and we'll talk to you next time.
Catch you later.